Hey everybody, welcome back to another shop episode here, D West Forge. Today we're gonna try to finish up that scales on Bob's knife. We got it all etched up in the last video on that, so but I broke my bandsaw. Something in the center was broke, and I had those small pieces of that aluminum that I'm putting on the Damascus knife, and I was trying to cut one of those, and it somehow flipped up sideways. It didn't break the bandsaw blade, but it kinked it really bad, so we got to go get a new bandsaw blade, and we're going to have to fix our bandsaw before we can cut out our micarta and our wood for our scales and all of that. So I mean, we could do it without it, but it needs to be fixed anyway. So we're off to Harbor Freight to get a bandsaw blade today, and this morning I just thought I'd take you along with me. You know, it's a far cry from the other day. We had beautiful weather, rode the Harley down to McDonald's and stuff, and today it's a little bit different. So yeah, let's take a ride down to Harbor Freight and get us a bandsaw blade. Well, as is often the case, I came here to buy a bandsaw blade, and I ended up buying two flap discs for my 4.5-inch angle grinder. 4 little hand clamps, little spring clamps for when I'm doing handle scales, you know, and we got kind of a knife sharpening hone, I guess you call it. So it always happens. I always say I'm not going to do that, and then I get in there and I need one of these. I I'm almost out of this, or oh hey, I could use one of those, you know. So yeah, that seems to always happen. It doesn't matter if I go to Harbor Freight or Home Depot or Lowe's, where I go, you know, I go there because I need something, one thing, or a couple of something, you know, and I end up leaving the store with more than what I went in there for. And it's not really impulse buying, it's just seeing stuff that I need. You know, you get so much going on with work and what I need to do at home and all these other things, and I've always got good grief, like 2 projects or 3 projects going on at the same time. So I'll be focused on one thing. Like today, we're closing in on the home stretch of getting Bob's knife done, and I knew I needed to get my bandsaw, you know, blade, so we can cut out our scales and that, and so that's all I was really focused on. I want to get that knife done, so let's get us a bandsaw blade this morning so we can take care of that. And what ends up happening is I get there and then I'm like, oh, you know what, I used the last one of these, so I got a couple of heavy grit flap discs. And then it's like, oh, I've been meaning to buy some of these little spring clamps. It's much easier to use than, you know, I've been having to use my big old wood clamps, and they're kind of a pain, you know, and the spring clamps is all you need. I mean, you don't have to clamp it, you know, you don't need it in a vise, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You're just clamping your scales in place until the epoxy cures, and you really don't need to clamp it down that hard and that tight. A few of those little spring clamps will work just fine. It'll make my life a lot easier. So, and then you know, I got to thinking, when I'm sharpening a knife, you know, I could use a little better way of sharpening a knife. So we got a honing block, has 4 different sides to it, 4 different grits. I think it starts out at 200, goes up to 600 grit. So that'll help me, that 600 grit will help put that final, you know, that final edge on that knife. And because I'm getting better at my knife sharpening, but I haven't yet been able to make, I mean, I can make a knife that'll slice paper and will slice your finger right off, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, my knives are sharp when I'm finished with them, but I see some of these guys that can take their knife after they sharpen it and push it through paper. Not slice the paper, just push the knife through the paper in one spot on the blade. And I'd really like to be able to get a knife that sharp, you know. Like I say, it's not that my knives aren't sharp. Believe me, if you were whittling a stick or something and you slipped, you could take a finger off. But I'd really like to be able to get a knife sharp enough to be able to just push it through paper, you know, just to say I can do that. So, all right, well, let's get home and get to work. So here we are back home, ready to get to work on that knife. We'll post this one as a separate video just for fun. I just thought it might be cool to take a little spin down to Harbor Freight with me and pick up some things that we needed. And now I'm going to fix that bandsaw, and then we're going to get on that. We're going to get on finishing up Bob's knife. I really want to get that knife done and move on. I itch to get back on that anvil. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love building these knives. Oh, and we've got another little project too. If you watched my hammer video, you know that I made this handle for my hammer out of a piece of oak, and it started out quite well, but you can see up here that it doesn't come off, but it loosens up. And not only that, but I got it too thin right in here, and it's just kind of hard to index, you know. So I ordered a hickory handle from online, and we're going to replace that too, so that I can index my hammer better. You know, it's important when you're planishing and that to be able to keep your hammer as straight and flat as possible, because what you're doing is trying to get rid of hammer marks, you know. And if you can't feel your index of your hammer handle properly, it just kind of makes it hard to do that and keep it, you know, flat. So hopefully with this store-bought handle, the only reason I did this in the first place was because I couldn't find a handle anywhere in town. You know, nobody had a hammer handle. So I would have had to order one. I didn't want to wait to order one. I needed my hammer. So I made this one, but I went ahead and ordered this handle. And I think this will work a lot better. And then our bandsaw here, a little deal down in here broke. There's a little plastic guide down in there that broke. But it never had this little plate that goes in here. And I think there's supposed to be a plate that goes in there. And I never saw it, never found it, if there was. So I'm going to make a little plate that'll go in here. And we'll cut a little slot in it for our bandsaw to fit. And I think that'll keep it from twisting or whatever, you know. Because I've noticed since I bought this, even when that little plastic guide was down in here, if I try to turn, you know, while I'm cutting a piece of wood, it wants to twist, you know, the blade wants to twist on me instead of, and I've really fought with it. And then that little plastic guide down in there broke the other day, and that's when the metal got caught and kind of flipped up in here, and it kinked my belt somewhere, or my saw blade somewhere here, right there. You can hear it when that little kink spot, it's right here. It just kind of tweaked it right there, and you can hear that little kink thing when it goes through there. So yeah, we need to fix that, because the last thing I want is for that kink to catch or something and, you know, injure myself some way or something while trying to cut out a pair of handle scales. So hey, we'll just call this one taking a run to Harbor Freight, and we'll start the next one here in a minute. But just thought it'd be fun to get out of the shop and take you for a ride with me to Harbor Freight. So yeah, stick around. We're going to start the next video right now, right after this one. So we'll get this one uploaded, and then we're going to get them knife scales done. So thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Get out and do something, man. Go to your shop, have some fun, beat on something, you know, fix something. I know I always say that, but I mean it. You know, it's just good for the soul, you know. You get out to your shop and just have fun, and nobody cares if you do a perfect job or if a not so perfect job or whatever. Just do something. Just have fun. And every time you work on anything, whatever, if it's on your anvil or forging or grinding grinding bevels or anything. You should have seen the first bevels I ever did. Oh my gosh, they were horrible, you know. But it didn't stop me. I didn't look at them and say, oh man, you know, I can't do this. I mean, my dad used to tell me, can't never did anything. And that's a saying that kind of stuck with me all these years. And so when I did those screwy bevels, I tried again, you know. And you just get better and better, and pretty soon, you know, I'm doing my bevels freehand. And for a little while there, I had a jig set up because I didn't have the confidence in myself to be able to grind bevels freehand. And they're still not perfect. I mean, you know, but my knives are handmade. You know, that's another thing you have to understand. If you're making knives or, you know, doing whatever, you know, it's handcrafted stuff. I mean, it's if you get too many jigs and tools and perfection going on, I mean, I don't want one of my knives to come out looking like a production knife that came out of a knife factory somewhere. You know, those things are, every bevel is grounded identically. Well, you know, they have machinery in there that does all that. I am the machine in my shop, so, you know, if you're freehanding bevels, freehand grinding your bevels, they're never going to be exactly perfect, and both sides aren't going to be exactly identical. I mean, maybe there's some guys out there that can do that. Hey, kudos to you if you can, because, you know, it takes some practice, you know, to grind bevels freehand, to get your plunges straight and get them even and get your edge right down the middle of your blade where it's supposed to be. But, yeah, just try, you know, try. Back in the day when I was rodeoing what was it now? Wow, like 26 years ago, there was a guy that had on his riding glove of his bull rope, when he would climb on his bull, and I rode barebacks, but when he would climb on his bull and turn his hand up like this under his rope, he had written right on his glove, right in here, try. You know, and that's all you can do is try. So, so anyway, let's stop gabbing and let's get this video uploaded. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate y'all watching. Hit that like and subscribe button if you would. You know, it'll kind of help me out. So, we'll see you on the next one.